Hello, today we're going to paint pictures using some feathers. Here we go. I expect you've been on walks like I have out in the woods and in the fields and picking up things, and there's lots of pigeon feathers out, and I thought, very nice way to paint a picture. So today what we're going to need is a sketch pad, pencil, some feathers, a paintbrush and some water, some kitchen roll, a saucer to mix your paints on, or you could use a palette, and paints. Now any sort of paints, you can use ready mixed, you can use watercolours that come in these solid tablets, or the paints that I like to use are the ones in these little tubes. Okay, should we get on and do some painting? Now, have you painted with feathers before? If you have, you'll know they're not quite like paintbrushes. They hold the paint slightly differently, and the way the paint comes off onto the paper is also slightly different. So before we do that, we're going to experiment with it. Now, on my saucer, I've put a bit of yellow, a bit of red, and a bit of brown. I've also used a brush and a bit of water to mix it in. The thickness of a paint makes a real difference to the colour. So here goes with my feather. I'm dipping it in the water, just getting it on the end there, and just going to have a practice with some marks. You can do some straight lines. The next thing, that's using the end of it. You try using the side of it. Makes a very different mark. Maybe put a bit more water on it and see how does that affect the paint. I think that changes the colour quite a lot. Also it changes the way it covers the paper. I quite like it quite watery. I'm going to whoosh it till it's clean, and now I'm going to try with the red. Again, I'm going to try and do a circle. See how the parts of the feather break apart? I quite like those tiny little lines it's making as well. You can imagine that in the tail of a chicken, can't you? You don't always need to put more paint on it. You can just put a bit more water to liven it up. And then you're going to get lots of shades of different colour. The next thing I'm going to try is doing two colours at once. So I've got red on the end, and I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow on it. See how that changes the pattern we make? See, it sort of blends as we paint it. I also find if I move quickly with it, but then gently come off the end, we get a nice curve to the end. Whereas if you come off abruptly, it doesn't look like if you imagine this is the chicken's tail. If you go straight, you've got a straight end. But if you go gently round and then come up gently, it sort of goes to a point, which I think is a really nice end to the line. But when we're doing the legs, we might want some short lines like that. That's all using the side of the paintbrush. It's a really good idea just to experiment, do lots of different sorts of lines, see what marks you can make and how can you see them being used when you're painting your chicken. Another thing is not to forget this end of the feather, the quill end. If you dip that in, you can get some really lovely details which are good for the eye. And again, when you're drawing the legs and the feet and the claws, they're quite good. Just keep dipping it in and see how it goes. Try putting some more water on it. The different thickness makes a different effect. Use dots. Do circles. It's quite good for straight lines. Lots of different shapes and patterns. And of course they used to use feathers to write with anyway, didn't they, with quills. It's got this hollow bit in the middle, and if you get the paint quite wet, it almost soaks into it, and you can paint with it for longer than you think. That's quite a long line that time, isn't it? Bit of paint, bit of water. I wonder if I can do it right from one end of the page to the other. You can see how the paint comes in later. Oh, it rains out. So you've got water, paint, and then it's drying out. There you are. Those are lots of different marks I've made using the paintbrush, using not a paintbrush, using the feather. So I've used the side, the end, the quill end. 2 colours, very wet paint, and then thicker paint. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a go at drawing the chicken. It has a lovely round tummy shape in the middle, and then a little bit sort of a head shape on the side here, and then we have lots of tail in this space. It's a very loose sketch. It's just to give us an idea. We've got one leg coming here, one leg coming here, a little bit of feathers there, gonna have some feet coming out. There we go. Then we've got just here, we're going to have a nice curve coming around. Just into this bit, we're going to have the beak. And then we're going to have another eye here. Put the eye there. And of course you're going to have the red comb coming up here, and this bit coming around here. And there'll be lots of lovely feathers all around there. It's a very simple sketch picture, can you see? Just giving you the outline, because the paint will make this picture the way you put it on. You don't want it to be too controlled. So start with quite a wet colour. I'm going to start with one of my favourite colours, which I've used nearly all of, as you see, is the ochre yellow, because that's quite a nice base colour to start with. Nice wet feather. And I'm just going to do the main body. Round we go like this. Just giving some shape to it. Put some feathers in. And then I'm going to put, there's a nice reddy colour here. A reddy brown colour. Reminds me of a little red hen. So I'm going to put that one in now too. There it goes. Wing at the shape here, I think we'll put here. Remember how we can make the feather shapes go down and up. There we go. Nice and fluffy looking. Lots of water. Blends the colours together. The feather just gives it some lovely definition. Lots of little lines. Look, and we get this fluffy bit coming out from the edges of the feather, making it slightly uneven. There we go. Going around there. I'm going to have very, very light sort of browny colour. This is where the it comes around where the neck sort of joins the body. So it comes around like that. It's quite in the middle bit here. There's not much colour really, so I'm just going to use the edge of the paint, but the feather to fill it in a bit, but not give too much colour. Remember how we practiced all the different marks we could make using different parts of the feather. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some quite bold colours of feathers here. Look, here they come. Because I'm going to go up into the tail now. Up round here. And get in and coming up at the top, down and coming out. So we've got nice ends to those tail feathers. Where a line ends and starts is where the eye first starts to read it, so it's really important, the start and the finish of a line. Now I'm going to put in some of the lovely bluey colour, because I just love that. I don't like it, the picture itself has quite a lot of black on it, so So I'm mixing a little bit of black in with the blue, because you can get some lovely bluey black colours. And we're going to go round like this. Oh, very bold. And a few of the feathers coming here. Can you see how the black's just blending in there? And it's coming out. I'm going to have a bit more black and less blue on this one. A bit more water. I'm blending it in the saucer. There we are. That really is quite black, isn't it? And there. Remember how we're using different parts of the feather to give the lovely texture. And I think we'll have a little bit of green in it too, just to add to the fun of it. Just a bit of green here, a bit of water to splotch it in. There we go. Lots of feathers there. A bit of the yellow we had earlier. Very lovely colours. It's quite bold, but I love the way the feather picks up the different colours as it works through the shape. And have a little bit of where the wing will come down. I'm using the side of the brush, look. Just pulling it down a bit, the colour. There. Now I decided I'd overloaded it slightly, so using my kitchen roll, I can just dab some of it off. It brings it a bit lighter again, just on that bit of the tail. I think there was a bit too much colour. So, and now I can put some more colour back on again. There we go, look. That lovely blue coming through there. Around here. A bit more of the black, I think. Going to clean it a bit. And again, I think too much blue. I love the blue, but damn, I think we need a bit more black in there, don't we? Might try this paintbrush. Oh, that's got a big tip on it, look. That gives a lovely sweep. Make that lovely curve, look. Bringing all the colours together. It's a good brush. That makes a good brush. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about the head. The head is a slightly orangey colour, so again we go a bit of the ochre, a bit of the red, the orangey red colour. Come around the edge. Again, remember it's a very loose. This isn't about precision really, is it? Because we're painting with a feather, for goodness sake. It's not going to be that controlled. So just enjoy spreading the colour with the paintbrush. There we go. So look at that. That's coming down nicely, isn't it? And because it's such a loose picture, no picture's ever going to be quite the same. It's going to be very unique. I'm going to do the red now. If we put lots of wet where we're going to have the comb, and then nice clean paintbrush, nice clean feather. Let's check it's not got any blue on it. I'm going to go into the red here. Look, watch how it bleeds into the water. And it spreads freely around the page. And then down here too. Right up to his little face, look, there it is. And there's a bit of water there to make it a bit more freer. There we go. And with the eye, I'm not going to paint the eye now. Make sure there's no red left on it. And use the kitchen roll, very useful. Make sure that's clean. Now this is where we're going to have to start being a little bit more controlled. I've got this nice reddy brown that is called, I think it's the same, it's burnt sienna one. I'm going to use the paintbrush, the feather right at the end, look. So it's quite controlled. And that's going to give me the orangey shape around the eye. I'm going to dab it again. A bit more orangey, I think. It's lovely, isn't it? You can just dab it off if it goes wrong and start again. There we are. It's a little bit more controlled, isn't it? So now we're going to try with the black, because we need a black in the middle of the eye, don't we? It's important to have a little bit of white in the middle as well. So make sure the end of your feather is going to a point. Can you see how it's gone to a point? And we paint it round, nice round circle, leaving a white bit so it looks like the chicken is watching you. Saying hello, what's going on there? There we are. And use the end of the paintbrush. Remember how we used the quill before? And that gives us just a bit more control. You just spread the paint around there, so we've now got his lovely eye. Now the bit we haven't done, I'm just going to mop this bit up because there's a bit too much red down on this that bit, is we haven't done the beak yet. I think I might have this colour because it hasn't got so much black on it. So I'm going to use the beak here. Not too much there. And to dab it, there we go. Again, just use the end. There we go, nice yellow beak. And now we're going to use the quill piece, and I've got a nice darker brown here. And I'm just going to use it to put some details in around the beak. I think it needs to be a bit wetter, there's not enough water in it. There we go, so scratching it in, lovely. This colour is also quite good. If you just go round the comb and gives it a little bit more of a 3D shape. If you go around the edge of it with that. Where the paint sort of flowed quite freely. Just gives it a bit more definition. Where the colours sort of blend together and you just put a bit more shape back in. There we go. Now, the bit I haven't done is the feet. So nice clean paintbrush again. And I'm going to do that in the lovely yellow. So I'm just dabbing it up and down because I want them sort of scaly and give it a lovely texture. Might have a little bit of that brown in it as well. There we go. It's giving it a nice shape, isn't it? Again with the feet as well, or the toes, because you want it to look quite scaly. If you look at birds' feet, they are quite scaly. There we go, like that. And like that. This is the one at the back. There's the back toe going round. And this one at the front's a little bit bigger. There we go. Right the way forward. Keeping it nice and red. There we go. Some lovely colours in there. And again, we're going to use the tip of the brush, of the feather, and we're just going to put some details in. So, with with a nice brown colour. There we go. Where the toes are. Nice and scaly. I think they're going to need a great big claw on the end as well, so they can scrape up all the slugs and snails in the garden. And there it is, some nice claws. And just line around there. Of course, I used to use feathers to write with. Shows you how tricky it must have been. It's been very patient using a quill like this. There we go. Now, always before you finish a picture, have one more look at it. Think, is it exactly how you want it? Is there anything you'd like to improve on it? Well, I think I need a few more brown feathers in this tail and on the wing here. So I'm just going to paint in a bit more brown here. It's not quite such the rainbow. Yeah. It's coming on his wing here. Or her wing. There. There. Just have a dab of colour at the front here as well. Bring that all together a bit more. There, and just tap that round a bit. Around the neck, I think we need to bring this down a bit. And up here, let's bring these feathers round. There. Not quite sure about the top of the head. This doesn't seem quite right for me around here. I think it should come down a bit more, round a bit. Let's give it a bit more of a head shape, doesn't it? There we go. Dab that red. There we have one colourful chicken. And that's the end of it. Well, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoy having a go at painting.